it is my privilege to introduce Mr. Stuart Lewtan, our guest speaker for today. Mr. Lutan comes to us via a sort of confluence of several paths. He is an alumnus of Brandeis University, class of 1984. He is a trustee of Brandeis University and indeed chairman of the board's audit committee. He is also an overseer for the International Business School at Brandeis, and he is actively interested in the Rabb School and its professional graduate programs offered via online instruction. Mr. Lutan is especially interested in the ways Brandeis University might adjust or adapt itself in and to the future in response to the influences of change and potential disruption in traditional higher education, very much in the topical news today. I am absolutely delighted that he is with us, and I welcome you.
Thank you. Good morning. Vice Provost Whalen, Executive Director Smith, faculty, proud parents, family and friends, and above all, the graduating class of 2012. To all of you here in the room, and to all of you watching on streaming video, on your iPad or iPhone or Android, from wherever you are in the world. To those of you watching asynchronously, on YouTube, listening to a podcast while you go for a run, to all of you inviting me to connect on LinkedIn, friending me on Facebook, tweeting me on Twitter, snapping my picture on your iPhone, distorting it on Instagram, and pinning it on your Pinterest. For those of you voting to make me the mayor of Foursquare, to those of you reading the real-time transcripts of this talk in English, French, Spanish, Hebrew, Arabic, Mandarin, and Korean. To all of you texting your friend next to you, will he ever stop with his introduction so I can get my diploma already? It is a real honor to be here today. Let me introduce myself. I am Stuart Lewtan. I'm a graduate of Brandeis University, class of 1984. I love this great institution. I love what it stands for. I met my wife here and some of my closest friends. I am a trustee. I am proud of what a degree from Brandeis connotes. I am also an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. I have no choice, it's what I do. After leaving Brandeis in 1984, I soon went into my first business, but let's pause for a moment to do some technology archaeology. When I graduated in 1984, cars had been invented, but cell phones had not. There was no email, except for computer science majors. There were no iPads, iPods, no GPS, no laptops, no Facebook, no Google. PCs had come out, but they had 5¼ inch floppy drives with 360 kilobytes of storage and no hard drives. Microsoft was a startup who wouldn't go public for several more years. So now that you have the technological landscape, let me tell you my entrepreneurial story. It's a story about two companies. I started my first company, Lutan Technologies, at my kitchen table when I was 23 years old in an apartment I shared with a roommate. It's funny, for most of the years I was building Lutan, I received blank stares when I tried to describe what the company did. I don't see what's so complicated about it. Lutan Technologies provides software information and analytics for the asset mortgage-backed securities market, or ABS for short. Asset-backed securities are bonds backed by the cash flows of underlying financial assets like mortgages, equipment leases, or credit cards. And Lutan has a repository of data for the performance of these securities, as well as tools to stress test the interest rate and credit scenarios, as well as back-end software to do the administration, the accounting, and the investor reporting for these transactions. I don't see what's so complicated about it. I don't see why my parents never understood what I did. So now ABS and MBS is somewhat of a infamous household word because of what happened in 2008, representing the greed of Wall Street, but of course that was not us. Actually, I sold Lutan at the end of 2004, and as Ross Perot said, I would rather be lucky than smart. The company continues to do well. However, when asked, I do like to lay claim to having single-handedly brought down the global financial system. I like to think big. From a company of one, my wife joined me soon thereafter. Then I hired some contractors and then additional employees. We expanded, we contracted, we expanded some more, we did more layoffs. It was a sawtooth graph of growth. Ultimately, the company settled in at over 100 full-time employees in an office here in Waltham, as well as one in London. Fast forward 25 years, and let's talk about my new company, Zintro, Zintro.com. Zintro is a search and connect engine. What does that mean? Well, a search engine like Google connects users up with content. It connects them with articles and news stories and websites. Zintro connects users up with experts working in the field. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're all Rabb graduates here, and let's say that you choose an entrepreneurial path, and you decide that you're going to create a new consumer product. And being that you're from Brandeis, from Rabb, of course, you're socially responsible and you want it to have environmentally friendly packaging. So if you're looking to talk to an expert about ways to accomplish that, you could go to Google and you could type in biodegradable packaging, and you will have 1.94 million hits. Websites, articles, all sorts of stuff like that, not particularly practical. You could go into LinkedIn and you could do a search for biodegradable packaging, and you will get several thousand responses. But these are people who may be in the space, but they don't necessarily want to talk to you, and it's not easy to reach to them. Or you can go to Zintro and you can type in, I am an entrepreneur and I am looking to launch a new consumer product and I want it to have biodegradable packaging. And Zintro will algorithmically match this inquiry up against the most relevant experts in the expansive network of experts that we have in our system. And it will send hundreds of them simultaneously a message inviting them to engage in dialogue with you. But this is done anonymously, so you don't have to worry about being spammed and things like that. So within a day, typically 6 to 12 experts will respond to you telling you how they can help you, and you can choose to engage and connect with them. And why do they respond? Because to the experts, this is a lead. This is an opportunity potentially for some new business. So I think you get the idea. Zintro already has over 40,000 experts and 15,000 clients. It's growing rapidly. But my goal is to change the fundamental way that knowledge-intensive B2B industry works. As I said, I like to think big. But how many full-time employees does Zintro have at its head office at 303 Wyman Street in Waltham, Massachusetts? 0. It is a virtual office. I work from home. Even so, our virtual workforce spans the globe. I have Brandeis students and graduates working in Waltham from their home. I have customer support people in India, software developers from Buenos Aires, QA people from the United Kingdom, graphic designers from New York City and San Francisco. The system is hosted in the cloud. I don't even know where the physical servers reside, nor do I care. We are woven together through technology. Amazon EC2 cloud technology, Skype, GoToMeeting, Basecamp, Redmine, Wikis, and other tools designed to integrate remote resources into a cohesive team. So why am I telling you this? This talk is supposed to be about you. Well, let's juxtapose the constructs of the two companies for a moment. Lutan Technologies is bound by a physical location. It has a headquarters. Zintro does not. Headquarters is wherever I am. When I go on vacation to Mexico, headquarters is Mexico. Headquarters follows me around. Now let's get metaphorical and metaphysical for a moment. Work with me on this. Lutan Technologies represents my generation, the class of 1984. Full-time employees located centrally, or the analogy of full-time students on campus. Zintro represents your generation, the class of 2012. At Zintro, there are virtual employees dispersed around the world. At Rabb, you might be from Massachusetts, you might be from Ohio, you might live in Asia, Europe, Latin America. You took classes online. You participated in synchronous sessions and asynchronous homework assignments. You iterated, collaborated, gesticulated. You're a virtual class in a virtual university with a world-class quality standard. In the industry, this form of education is called distance learning. When I originally took an interest in distance learning, I thought it was just about a bunch of professors giving the same lecture that they might give in the classroom, but streaming online. But quickly I learned it was much more than that. It was collaborative. It had started to take advantage of the technology to improve upon the pedagogical experience. Some traditional faculty may scoff at that idea, but the trajectory is there. Distance learning will, for many areas of study, improve upon educational outcomes. Students will learn more because they are engaged, because they are collaborating. Is that really a surprise? The traditional lecture hall doesn't look much different than it did 100 years ago. Rows of seats, professors lecturing at the students, students in the back row losing interest. Wouldn't one expect to improve upon that over a century? Also, in my not-so-humble opinion, distance learning will play a role in fixing what is broken in the higher educational system. It's simple. Higher ed is too expensive. It is too limited by the physical, classrooms, buildings, dorms, parking spaces. But education is information, and information can flow in bits and bytes. At the speed of light across optical fiber, it can flow through the air to wireless devices. It can flow into the home of a single parent in Cleveland, Ohio, who otherwise wouldn't be able to get her master's degree because she needs to balance work and raising her children. It can flow to the student in Jerusalem, in Asia, in South America. It can flow anywhere. Just a couple weeks ago, David Brooks, the esteemed New York Times columnist, who also happened to be the commencement speaker at last year's commencement, wrote a column titled "The Campus Tsunami." In it he wrote, "Over the past few months, something has changed. The elite pace-setting universities have embraced the internet. Not long ago, online courses were interesting experiments. Now, online activity is at the center of how these schools envision their future." He went on to add, "What happened to the newspaper and magazine business is about to happen in higher education, a re-scrambling around the web." But the Rabb School is already there. You are already there. You already have lived in this new paradigm. Rabb was ahead of its time, offering the same high-caliber Brandeis degrees as if you had attended in person. I love technology, but I wouldn't consider myself to be a purist. I love the application of technology. I love when technology eliminates the mundane. I love when technology disrupts a market. I love what technology is doing to higher education. How does this impact you, class of 2012? Your Rabb experience will give you advantages over others who have not worked in virtual environments before. You are used to working collaboratively with others without a care for where their atoms are physically located. You are comfortable with the concept that just because you are working from home doesn't mean that your work should be taken lightly. You are comfortable looking into a screen simultaneously with 5 other talking heads and the occasional glimpse of a person's dog or their child wandering back in the image of their webcam. You're comfortable connecting with people even though their physicality is elsewhere. As the world evolves and your career evolves, much of the world will work the same way that your classes at Rabb did. A hybrid of virtual and real connections. Take full advantage of this. Use your bilingual, virtual, real connection fluency to your advantage. Help to break the mold of whatever industries you serve by leveraging the organic feel about what can and cannot be managed that way. Find the best employees wherever they may be, whomever they might be. Hire the woman whose mobility is limited because she's taking care of her elderly father. Hire the person whose physical handicap limits his access, or the highly capable person who shunned urban existence for a life of solitude overlooking the mountains. Remove the artificial barriers and psychological of traditional people, and teach those around you that we are all still human beings. Technology changes almost everything, but it doesn't change the basic human-to-human connection. It doesn't change the fact that we still need to treat each other with respect, to laugh with each other, to love each other, to connect. I was doing a vanity search on Lutan the other day. You know, when you look up your own name in Google, I'm sure everyone's done it before. And I came across most of what you would expect. items related to Zintro or to Lutan technologies, and then I came across an interesting one. It was a book about the history of the asset-backed securities market. And much to my surprise, there was a chapter about the history of Lutan technologies in there. So strange. From a half-baked idea conceived when I was 23 years old, not much, I'm sure many of you are 23, older or younger, to the pages of a history book in a blank. The epilogue for Zintro and for class of 2012 is not yet written. You leave Rabb with many inherent advantages, but now you have to make it happen. So class of 2012, you will walk out of here with your Brandeis degree. That I can promise you, as long as you paid your parking tickets. That degree is more than just a piece of paper. It is an implied obligation. Now it is time for you to do great things, to be a great person, to make the world a better place, to pay it forward to others, to make this great institution proud. Congratulations, 2012.
Thank you, Stuart. I think the fact that none of us really, you said the epilogue is yet to come. We don't know what's going to happen, and I hope you've given us a vision of how to tackle what we don't know is going to happen.